2009. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the regular meeting of April 8th?
Move the minutes be accepted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. At this time, we have some guests here at our meeting. From the Homer Central School District, we have Thomas Turk and Bernie Zola. They're going to give a presentation on the state of the school district at this time.
And thank you, folks, for having us. I'm not quite sure where you need me to stand. You want me to be in the, probably better off if I'm not in the camera's view. My mother always said I had a face for radio, so I'll try to stay out of the way. The important information will be on the screen that's up on the board if you wanted to point it there. But again, thank you for having us. Each year, as the school district develops its budget for the next fiscal year, we try to get out to as many folks as we can and talk about the direction of the district, the financials, but also some of the programmatic changes that we're looking to make to continue to meet the needs of our kids.
Right behind the door.
Right behind the door, Dan.
It's outside.
Behind the door. Look to your right.
There you go.
See, I look even better now on camera. So one of the first things we do, and really the development of the budget is a year-long process. I started in this position July the 1st, and we started developing these budget guidelines shortly after that. And these are really the guiding premises that we want to use when developing the budget. First and foremost, we want to make sure that we're maximizing our efficiencies while trying to minimize the program impact. I've worked in Homer now, this is my 20th year. And over the course of those 20 years, we've been very fortunate to be able to offer high quality programs for kids and do that in a cost-effective way. Because we do realize that our community, while very supportive of our school district, it's not a bottomless pit. And so we want to make sure we keep that in mind as we move along. We also want to listen to you as community members. We're only going to be as successful in our district as the community feels that we are. We have over the years developed wonderful young children. One of the reasons I think we're able to do that is because we have a very supportive community. So we want to make sure that we continue to listen to you. I'm going to talk more about the impact of withheld aid in a bit. But needless to say, over the last 10 years in Homer, we've not received $64 million in funding that if the formula, that the way it was written, if it was run, we would have received that money. But unlike, or like most districts in the state, we've had money withheld. That's why I'm even more proud of our ability to continue to do a good job with programming when we really have been shorted $64 million over 10 years. We want to develop the tax levy in compliance with the tax levy limit. And I've got a slide that'll talk about that in a little bit. You may have heard in the community or in the media, the 2% tax cap. And I'll explain later why a 2% tax cap is really not a 2% tax cap. And this year, I'm really excited about our strategic planning initiative. We have a 5-year strategic plan that we've been developing since the beginning of the school year. Over 100 people, parents, students, community members have been involved as we continue to make that plan. And that's really our guiding light in terms of making decisions about budgets as we move forward. The purpose of this slide is really to show you two things. On the left, you see the bar graph, and those are the enrollment numbers from 2009 up to what's projected for 2020. And you can see that only in 2019, which is this school year, have we seen a little resurgence in our enrollment. We added 2 pre-K classrooms at the elementary school this year. So we're fortunate to have 3 pre-K classrooms. So that was really the reason for that spike in enrollment. But you can see a general decline in enrollment. What you see on the right, and it's the blue line that I really want to draw your attention to, that's the percentage of students with free and reduced lunch, or our economically disadvantaged students. Back in 2007, it was about 24%. It's currently over 41%, but we really think that number's low. 41% is only the families that have notified us and filled out the paperwork. And I've said for years in Homer, we have a number of what I would call proud core. These are hardworking folks that don't want to take what they perceive to be handouts. That's not how we perceive it, but that's how some perceive it. So that number, my guess, is probably closer to 50%. So while we're seeing decreasing enrollment, we're seeing increased needs in our student population. The next slide is our per pupil expenditure, and this is for a general education student. These numbers are driven mostly by contractual obligations and health insurance costs, but you can see for 2018-19, the current school year, our cost per pupil in Homer for a gen ed student is $10,787. Obviously, for a higher needs student, that number goes up and can be much larger depending upon the needs of the child and program that they require. Revenues and expenditures. Along the top, New York State aid. Currently, this school year, we've received, or will be receiving $24,225,078 in state aid. Our estimated number for next year is an increase of $856,999. And again, that's an estimated number. This number, although this was the number that was estimated for us last year, ended up coming up to be about $400,000 less. And that's based on usage, really is what changes that. But that's what we're estimated to receive next year. Any positive number from the state is a good number. There are a number of school districts around that haven't been able to say that. Another source of revenue is local sources, $606,000 currently. We're projecting it next year the same. Those are reimbursements for Medicaid, facility rentals, those types of things generate that local source and E-rate money. This year in 2018-19, this is what our taxes we raised through the tax levy, $16,235,856. What we're asking the public to support for next year is $16,544,339. That represents a $308,483 increase. If you want to translate that to taxes, it's a 1.9% tax increase. And I'll show you in a slide further into the presentation about where that 1.9 comes from. We have a reserve plan. We met with a state comptroller a few years ago, and although they complimented us on the use of our reserves and the reserves that we had in place, they recommended that we start utilizing some of those reserves to offset debt. So what we've been doing is we have a plan where we this year put in $308,234 from our reserves, and we're projecting that we are going to do that again next year. Again, it's a rainy day fund, the ability to offset some things that you don't anticipate, as in any business you have those. Finally, our fund balance. This is unrestricted fund balance. Again, in any business, you have a number of things. In schools, the big things that we get hit with that we don't anticipate are students that move from other areas, many of whom are fairly expensive in terms of the program needs. In Homer, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but we have a very, very thorough and popular, by all intents and purposes, special education program. We have a number of kids move into our area for the services that we're able to provide. Some of those students can cost in excess of $100,000 a piece, depending again on the program they're in. So one we put into the budget this year was $680,000. We're forecasting that we're not going to have to use that money this year, which is good. So we're rolling it forward to next year to put into the budget. So a total revenue source for next year, $43,220,650, and it represents an increase of $1.165 million. So as far as our expenditures go, we needed to put this year in building our budget. We have a new entity coming into town, the Truxtun Academy Charter School. You might have read about that in the paper. They had attempted to get a charter for on a number of occasions, and they were successful this past year. They're projecting that 38 of our Homer students will go to that Truxtun Academy Charter School at a cost of over $12,000 per student. So built into this budget for next year in our expenditures is over $483,000 that will be set aside to go to the charter school. That represents about 3% on taxes. We raise about $162,000 per 1% on taxes. So we had to build that in this year. So I'm going to move forward, and well, I'll get to the tax increase in a minute. This slide really is just meant, this graph is really meant to show that we're a people business. This of the $43 million budget that we're talking about, more than $32 million of it is in people and instruction. I mean, that's fundamental to what we do. You can see the others, the administrative portion of the budget, 3.547 million, and the capital component is just over 7.3 million. But this is where we do our work. It's with the kids and making sure that we have the appropriate adults to work with them to help them be successful. This is the tax cap slide. Again, the 2% tax cap that you hear about, the 2% is really just one of the 13 steps in a process. It's a multiplying factor in a very complex formula to determine how much you can ask your tax base to raise. So essentially this slide, this column is the amount of money that since 2013-14, we would have been allowed to raise in taxes. And this column is the amount that we actually asked our residents for. So in 2013-14, our threshold was 4.49%. We went out at 3%. 14-15, 1.88. We went out at 1.5. We even were fortunate enough to have a budget where we could go out at a 0 for 3 years in a row. We weren't able to do that last year. And really, we're going to ask that we go out at the same number for this year. The reason being, again, 3% of our, really what equates to 3% in taxes is dedicated for the charter school. So we really, I think, have put it together what I would like to call a responsible budget that recognizes that it's not a bottomless pit, that our community can't be continued to ask for more and more and more. But 3% dedicated to the charter school certainly has hurt us there. How will that 1.9% affect your tax bill? This obviously are estimates, but you can see if you know the value, you look at the value of your home. If you have a $100,000 property, the estimated increase to your taxes at 1.9%, $38. These are some programmatic changes that we're excited about the prospect of putting in place. The community has been really supportive of our efforts to increase the use of technology, to put devices in the hands of our kids, to help educate them and prepare them for the future that they're going to be a part of. One of the things that we haven't always done a good job of, though, is to make sure that our teachers have the training that's necessary to fully integrate technology. Technology should not be something that takes the place of good quality instruction. It should help to augment it. So one of the positions that we're looking to put in place is a technology integration specialist. This would be someone that's currently on staff that would be dedicated full-time to working with teachers and kids to make them more productive with technology. More technology is not always the best. It's the quality of how we use it is what we're really trying to get at there. Following along the same lines, we have had a number of stipend positions in the district, curriculum area lead teachers, grade level chairs, and these are teachers that do their own teaching during the day, but then receive a stipend to work with teachers to help them with their instruction whenever they can find time, whether that's planning time, lunchtime, before or after school. And while that's a good model, it certainly isn't as efficient as having somebody do it full time. So one of the things that we're looking to do, one at the elementary and one at the intermediate school, is put together and put an instructional coach there. It's a teacher that we would pull from the classroom. They would be working full time in the buildings to help teachers, many of whom might be young in the profession, with classroom management, with lesson development, with unit planning, those kinds of things. That model I've seen in other places has been really effective, and we're excited about the prospect of using it here in Homer. We also have an innovation grant program. This will be the third year. Some of the pictures that you see are some examples of what have resulted from those innovation grants. We recognize that we're an agricultural community. We want to give some of our kids the experience of growing and planting and seeing the benefits of that. So that picture on the left is a greenhouse that one of our innovation grant proposals resulted in. And in the middle, you'll see some of the furniture that we've been able to purchase. It's modular furniture, white tables that kids write on. It's a whiteboard. It's got wheels on it. You can move it to create some collaborative learning spaces. Again, the innovation grants have been very thought-provoking on the part of the staff. They've done a great job of putting together some really exciting proposals, and we're hopeful that we're going to continue that next year as well. So these are the propositions that you'll see on the 21st of May. Proposition 1 is your authorization for us to expend the sums of the $43,220,650 and to levy the necessary tax. Proposition 2, every year we have our bus leasing proposition. We entered into a bus leasing program. This will be year 5 in the 1920 school year. What it allows us to do is to lease our vehicles. We're looking to lease 8 66 passenger school buses not to exceed $780,000. The highlights are why you want to lease a bus as opposed to buy a bus. Bus maintenance costs go up drastically after 5 years. The depreciation on a bus, if we buy a bus at $128,000, 10 years later, we're lucky to get $6,000 out of that, not to mention the increased cost in labor and parts. And so we'll lease buses. Our buses are turned over every 5 years. You won't see a Homer bus broken down on the side of the road. You won't see a Homer bus with parts falling off of it or rust in it. Again, we travel over 176 square miles in our district, one of the largest busing districts in the state. And this allows us to do that safely and get our kids back and forth in a safe way. The second is that we are looking to purchase 2 Chrysler Pacificas. Those are vans. We have kids going all over the area to go to some of those special education programs that I talked to you about. We go as far as Binghamton, we go to Oswego and Syracuse, and this is an efficient way for us to do that. The third proposition looks a little bit different. The Phillips Free Library has been on our propositions for a number of years. The difference this year, though, is that you'll see the difference in what they're asking for you to approve through this ballot. Last year, it was $113,165. Next year, this for 1920, they're asking for $196,165. That seems like a large increase, but the difference this year is that instead of going to the village and to the town and the school ballot to raise the money, they've chosen to put it all on the local school ballot. In Homer, we don't necessarily do anything with the development of the library proposition. All we do is provide tax collection and voting day services. But if you had more questions about why the library chose to do that, I put Priscilla Thomas's contact information on the bottom. She's the library director. We have 3 board member seats that are up: Keith Fagerheim, Shanice Riley, and Kim Sharp. And we're fortunate to have 3 people that are going to run. 2 of the 3 are signing on for another 3 years with me, which I don't quite understand that myself. But they're going to sign back on. So Shanice Riley and Keith Fagerheim, and then another parent, Aaron Bowens, has filled out a ballot. So these are the 3 people available for you to vote for the 3 seats that are up. We vote on May the 21st, Tuesday, from 7 to 9 in the location it's always been. It's the old music building on the Homer High School campus. We hope that folks will come out and vote. Questions for me?
Tom, can you tell us what the total debt for Homer School District is?
Sure. Can we get the lights back?
Yes.
Got it? Yeah, our total debt. Total debt is $29,772,100, and what that includes, it is our debt service as part of our capital projects that we've had. We have an 03 project, a 2009 project, and then the most current 2013 project. The bulk of that debt will come off after the 2023 year, and then over 18,000 or 18 million of it will come off after the 2023 school year, and the remaining debt will be $12,656,500. So we recognize that carrying a lot of debt is not ideal, but obviously in an organization you have to be able to continue moving forward. There are always additions and improvement that you have to make. What we've started to look at some different ways to try to get things done to lower that debt. We're in the process of identifying an energy performance contract that we're talking to we had a couple of presentations about a month ago. Essentially what that does, it's guaranteed savings that will offset that debt. We have a lot of work that can be done around energy performance, a lot of lighting and heating elements that can be done. We could do that at no cost or no debt because of the guaranteed savings. We've gone to the bus leasing, kind of the same reason to try to lower that amount.
Do you ever see a time when Homer will be free of debt?
I don't know. I think that's difficult to do. Eventually I think we'll run out of energy performance work and we'll have to do capital improvements. And when you have capital improvements, you have to incur at some level of debt. We certainly recognize that 29 million is more than we want. And that's really why we started the energy performance option. It's a fairly new way school districts have been going about getting some work done that needs to get done. The guaranteed savings is really an attractive option.
I've got another question. I'm not asking you to solve this problem, but it's more of a macro question.
Sure.
And that is that the performance of American students has been dropping on a global basis compared to other countries. And yet we have the highest cost of education per pupil in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the medical system. We pay the most for medical, but we don't have the best medical system. Can you answer the question of why this discrepancy and what educators at the administrative level are doing to try to solve this?
Yeah, I can speak for Homer, and that was really why the first thing I talked about when I started interviewing for this job was having a solid plan of what does Homer value. In education, and I've been in it now 26 years, we're guilty of seeing that newest shiny thing and putting it in place without necessarily evaluating its effectiveness over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're all good ideas, but without a lot of focus, you end up being a mile wide and an inch deep. And I think that certainly in Homer, we've been guilty of that at some level. That's why for me, I would want to go slower, make sure that we have a game plan. What are the priorities? What have we found that's worked to help improve students' performance? And put our resources and our time and our efforts there. Mm-hmm. And so I can't speak for the entire educational system, right, but what I can say is having a solid plan of what you value and having proven research-based efforts to get those done. Mm-hmm. That's the way that you end up with a student that achieves at a higher rate than they currently are.
Because taxpayers are concerned about a return on their investment.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I will tell you is Jen and I moved here 20 years ago, and 3 of our boys have gone through Homer schools. Our last one graduates this year. I will say that when comparing the experience they've had here in Homer and how successful they've been since they've left, and we hear stories, anecdotally about this all the time. Our Homer kids are doing great. Mm-hmm. They're well prepared. Can we be better? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that real estate agents will tell me all the time is the easiest way to sell a house is to have it in the Homer school district. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a reason for that. I think people genuinely feel like their kids have a good go here, and I'm proud of that. Mm-hmm. But again, it doesn't mean you can't get better.
Right. Then I've got another question about special ed. Are you seeing an increase in special ed cases in your school district? Is it a growing trend?
Yes.
And if so, why, in your opinion?
Well, it is growing. Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons I intimated earlier, we seem to be an attractive district for families who have students with disabilities. We tend to see students making a change to Homer, and if you ask them what's the reason why, not all the time, certainly, but in many cases, it's the quality of the work that we do with those students that have identified disabilities. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, yes, I think we do see an increase there. The big increase I see though is in mental health. It has gone through the roof, and I know it's not just specific to Homer schools because I have these conversations with other superintendents all the time. But mental health has become a big concern for us, and the lack of quality services in our community for that. One of the focus areas of our strategic planning that we're doing is the social emotional health of students, because we can have the best educational or instructional program in place, but if a child comes into school and is not ready to learn and has those issues going on the back, then, you know, we can have the best instructors and the best instructional program in place. It doesn't make a difference. So we're seeing increased need, not always identified kids, but certainly mental health is a big one.
Okay, I got a question.
Sure.
How come special education has dropped 79,000 according to this paper
Dropped from where?
from the year before?
So
The proposed
while
budget.
we might have a number of students coming in, the services that they require could be lower. As I mentioned, one student could cost literally $100,000 if they need to go to a residential program down in Binghamton. Or so while the numbers of kids go up, sometimes the costs drop, if that makes sense. The other thing that we tried to do in our district is I had a sister with Down syndrome growing up, and Jolene used to get on the typical, bus, the short bus in front of my house. She would go to a school in Watertown. I grew up in the Thousand Island, and she'd go to the school in Watertown, and we'd never see her till the end of the day when she came back. And she did that for years. And it always bothered me as a kid because I always felt like I wanted my sister in my school with my 4 other sisters, And so the other focus that we've had in Homer is to try to bring some of those students back, and where they have been in a BOCES program before, where we can provide the service at home, and meet the needs of the child at home. We try to do that, and in some cases it has saved us money by doing that. But you don't do it to save the money. Now it's nice, but you do it to help the child and have them around the kids that they're going to play on the playground with, or see out in the street at home. And so we had some cost saving measures, even though the numbers of kids have gone up.
About how many special ed students are placed outside a district?
As few as possible. I don't have that exact number. I can certainly get that for you. But one of the goals that we've always had is if we can provide the program at home, we want to do that. Some of the disabilities are so specific that you might have only one student with that disability and these are not typical disabilities, learning disabilities that you would. These are multiply disabled children and or very extremely autistic children that we just don't have a program for it locally. But where we can, we're trying to make sure that we have those, because again, if it was my child, I'd want them going to the school that's in our neighborhood as opposed to 20, 30 miles away if possible.
Any other questions from the board? Seems to be it.
I thank you for your time. I appreciate it
Okay,
very
Tom,
much.
thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
If you email us that PowerPoint, we can put it up on our website with the
Be
video.
happy to. Yeah. Do I have contact information for you folks? Does my secretary have it maybe?
Your secretary has my phone number.
Okay, we'll get in touch tomorrow. I don't want to take it.
Okay.
All right, we'll get it out to
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Thank you.
All
For
right.
that. Appreciate it.
Jane?
Dog control. One dog was adopted and she traveled 105 miles for the town. Justice report, April fines, $15,754.
Thanks, Jane. Jeff? Highway
Yeah.
report?
You got a copy of the report. Also, the highway committee, Jim, Dave Morris and I met last week. Went over quite a few things. First off, and the last couple of months have actually worked so well, I actually went on another idea. And I wanted to throw out that, actually, with other projects we have going on, we have buildings and grounds, for a couple guys. And if the board and the members are so inclined, I'd like to have a highway committee of Jim and Dave Pittman. And then buildings and grounds committee of Dave Morris and Don Fisher, if that's worked for you guys. I'd like to open up the communication more, get some more ideas bouncing around. Like I said, the last couple of months, I think it's worked really well. I'd just like to build on that a little bit. And if that's all right with everybody.
Don't have any
That
objections to it?
And we can get together and figure out a time that works best for everybody to, like maybe the week before we were doing Wednesday nights at 5:30. The immediate Wednesday preceding the meeting, and we can do for the other anytime, days, nights, whatever works for you guys. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Don's snowplow contract, I think we got that later on.
Yes.
The other thing is I did get what they call a mini bid. It's done through OGS, the state bid process. I gave you a price through Onondaga County. I refined the specs on the truck a little bit more and was pleasantly surprised that it came in just about $10,000 less. So I'd like approval to, when did the permissive referendum, I didn't get the exact date on that, Don. The permissive referendum that we put in last month.
I don't know. It's
Maybe
30
time
days
out.
from the time of publication, so I don't think you're up yet.
Yeah. Could we do that pending the not negative?
As far as
impact on-
approval or whatever, pending,
Pending,
sure.
but I don't have that number in front of me. But it's, original was just over 70,000 and this one's just over 60. Basically same spec. I just pulled a couple things out that were in the Onondaga County spec that I didn't feel we needed. So I'd ask for resolution, motion to do that. Amnesty days are done. We had 27.1 ton of trash. Also, there's 25 tires found on the roadside. New mower for the rec department. Hank's using that. I think it's working well. I think it's not using anywhere near the fuel of the old one either, as far as quantity. Saturday, at the Telmeyer auction, the old mower brought $3,375. So I think we did okay there. The post office paving, I talked to Renee next door, and she's got permission to keep the mail in the boxes for that week, and also to put flyers in the boxes to, communicate with the people what's going to be going on the weekish or whatever that we have the outback all tore up. Weather depending, if it ever quits raining, I guess it may be mid-June, but we'll see. So, like I said, consider that resolution, and if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jeff. So Don, the board would make a resolution for Jeff to go ahead with this purchase.
Yeah, pending expiration of the 30-day permissive referendum period.
Anybody want to make a
Are you sure that it's not over because our meeting was on the 8th?
Could be. I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
I don't have the material with
Oh,
me. I
okay.
just want to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. Wanna do it?
Yeah, I can make a motion to approve the referendum to approve the purchase of Dodge 4500 for $60,384.50.
Second.
All in favor?
I-
Carried. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
So I'll let you know. Just confirm.
Yep.
And then cut the check.
Recreation, Renee?
Just a quick update, the water's on and tested. I gave everybody a copy of the calendar. One mistake on there, the July 1st shower is actually, on June 1st. So, the same day as town sales, so that's my error. You can see there's lots of events going on. The park is open, we've had an event there already. Work will continue working on down there. Town sales will be June 1st. The Old Timers Band has rescheduled their date again, scheduled for August 6th. The grant came through, it's a 3-year grant through the youth burial now. We've been allocated for $1,500 for the next 3 years. With
Each-
certain
each
goals.
year?
Each year,
Oh,
the next 3 years, with certain goals that have to be met. I had to submit some goals and objectives to be completed. We would like to purchase 2 pieces of equipment now for the playground. We've been looking at it, so it'd be nice if we could find out how much is in the funds that have been set aside in that one item line if possible. The program is just about completed for the final touches. There's 5 trips already planned. Every Tuesday there'll be library and swim. Again, we'll have the hot lunches, transportation's provided by Tully School District. This year we've included some county events sponsored through the county health department. We're gonna have a bike safety day while we're in program. There's also gonna be a car seat safety check done. And once a week, there'll be a social emotional component with someone from the county also coming into the youth. As always, we're doing fundraising with the Candle and Bottle Drive. Someone has offered to provide a Pampered Chef party for us. That'll be an online and a book party, and a percentage of that will be donated back into the playground fund. There's also a fundraising thing that can be done through Swans, where you can give a note to people who purchase Swans, and then 2% of your sales can go back into a fund, and then you can contact them. So we're looking into that as well. 2 people who have already reserved the park this summer are donating their funds back into the playground fund already. And looking to purchase the new signboard that we use for communication, as the other one's pretty much beat up and falling apart. So other than that, just continue working and
Okay,
having a great summer.
thanks for all your efforts,
Thanks.
Renee. County Legislature, Don is not here tonight. Jane?
Zoning and code, 4 building permits issued, 185 miles traveled for the town, 9 building inspections, 48 hours worked, 2 fire inspections, 3 complaint follow-ups, 51 telephone inquiries. Planning board meeting is May 22nd at 7 o'clock. ZBA meeting is June 6th at 7:30.
Thanks, Jane. Historian, our new historian.
Still continuing to get organized out back. It's come along pretty nicely. We did have 4 donations so far since January. People have given different material we put in the archives. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Jane?
We collected $403, dispersed $392 to the town of Preble, and $11 to New York State Egg and Markets. Tax collector, April taxes received $74,955.72.
Thanks, Jane. Unfinished business, I'll start with the newsletter. Newsletter just came out, just went out today. And I want to thank Don Fisher for putting in the bulk of the work on this newsletter. He did a great job. And it's packed full of information. So you'll be getting this in the mail over the next day or so.
I'd just like to say, if anyone has ideas for articles or background information they'd like to see in the newsletter, we'd love to get it. Get the suggestions, and we can follow up and get articles written. Also, we're looking for ways to feature businesses in Preble in the articles. So we've had one on a farm this month, or this time it's on the quilt shop. And so, we'd like to spread it around different parts of the town and so forth. But any ideas are appreciated.
Thanks, Don. Time Warner Cable, Charter Communications 10-year contract Don, can you give us an update on that, if there is anything to say?
We're waiting for information,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's
Hopefully
forthcoming.
before late Memorial Day.
Yeah,
I
it's
was gonna say Labor
that's
Day,
right.
but yeah.
Supposedly by
Hopefully the stars.
some years Memorial Day.
They want us to sign this contract, and
They
we're,
haven't been after us on it.
and
but-
we're asking a question,
Right.
and they don't want to answer the question, for whatever reason. So we're still waiting.
Just
But I think that there's still, I mean, they just signed the deal with the state.
Mhm.
And so I think that they're still actually working out the exact locations.
Mhm.
So I think that that's really what's going on.
Hmm.
Is that they don't want to give us the old plan that they got called out on.
Mhm.
So
Right. So we're still waiting on it.
pending.
Pending, right. Next is update on Ed Benedy. Don, can you give us that update?
That is a copy of the order. And that was the result, that is the result of the appearance back in April. And this is the contempt order. So if you flip to page 2, it shows you that, as we said at the last meeting, there is a sentence imposed against each of the defendants that involves both jail and a fine. That's in the middle of the page. And then the next paragraph, which really completes that page, says they can purge that contempt by doing the following things. And first is, with the exception of the stockade fence and the items within the stockade fenced area, all items in violation are to be removed. And you'll see the carroted in language there. The time period is 30 days from date of service of this order on each of them. So just the orders were served on each defendant on April 29. So the 30-day time period would expire May 30. So they would be in violation at that point. Well, they would not have purged themselves of the violation within the time allowed. Then if you continue with that, everything is to be removed, including the stockade fence and the items contained within the stockade fenced area within 60 days from date of service of the order. So that puts them to the end of June 29. And then the last part of that language gives them the ability to put in a shed, and with all the contents of the stockaded area could be located within that shed, and that's within that same 60-day time period. Again, towards the end of June, to the end of June. And then the page 3, of course, says that if they do not purge themselves, then we can file an affidavit of noncompliance with the court, and the court is indicating they'll issue a warrant for their arrest. So that's where we're at. And I did not stop by there tonight on the way up. I have not observed where we're at, but they've been personally served as required by the court, and the clock is running. So basically, they've got to have the entire area cleaned up within the 60 days, including the stockade fence and what was inside.
Anybody have any questions for Don on this? Okay. Snow plowing intermunicipal agreement. Don, can you give us an update on that?
Yes, I think we're there. You all have a copy of the latest and greatest. The one thing you don't have is the actual format of the agreement. The agreement itself is exactly the same that I had emailed to me, I guess it was Thursday or Friday, but is the actual Exhibit A. You have the email from Charles Sudbrink that has the information on there, the 3982.49 per center line. That's what accompanied the copy of the contract. This actual contract has it as the Exhibit A, which is referred to as Exhibit A within the contract. And it calls for, and I think this is the same as it was before. Jeff can certainly correct me on it. But it gives the 3 roads that we would be providing services and the length, the center line length of each, which is 1.48 center line miles for Song Lake Crossing, 0.63 center line miles for Tully Center, and for Song Lake Road, it's 2.58 miles, so it's a total of 4.69, and that converts to, so for this coming season, the per center line rate times the 4.69 gets us 18,677.78. And it does say the rate increase is 2% every year thereafter. So that's those are the numbers. This is, if you look at Article 2 of this agreement, as we've talked about, it's a 2-year agreement with the ability to opt out as long as notice is provided no later than March 31st of each year. So in other words, by signing this, we're agreeing to a 2-year term. But either party before March 31 of 2020 can opt out of the second year of the 2 years. And at the same time, that short paragraph says it can be extended twice upon written acceptance. So instead of having to I anticipate like an email exchange or something to that effect, where if 2 years from now everything is fine, we would have seen some cross communication between perhaps Jeff or, and or maybe authority of the board to re-up for another 2 years. Most of the other terms are virtually exactly the same as they were that we put together last year. Because we extended this for a year. It doesn't answer, you've got in Article 3 where the contract numbers would change if a substantial increase occurred in the contractor's costs. It does define that substantial means more than 10% increase for fuel, sand, salt, and labor collectively combined. It doesn't say what the increase would be. And to me, the answer is if Jeff sees that the expenses are way up this next year, you guys can decide to say, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
So before the next 2021 comes along.
Or
so
renegotiate the price.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah. So I think you're there.
Okay.
So if you want to approve it.
So one question, quick question. Jeff, you had made a big point back when we first started talking about this, that the county needed to maintain the roads. And I see that at the end of Article 1, there's the one sentence that they will maintain at least as they in their current condition. Is their current condition acceptable?
Well, it's a lot more than we had.
Okay.
And that was actually put in. Preble was the only one with that terminology.
Right.
They.
But I mean, I'm not so much worried about the language. I'm saying, are the roads that you're going to maintain in an acceptable state?
First, I think we all agree the worst couple roads now are Tisco Valley Road and Tully Center Road as far as a county road in this town. Most of the other county roads have been pre-profiled at least. The one thing I will say, and if the board gets a chance, if you haven't already, go up Cisco Valley Road from Masters Road to the county line. That is paved already this year. They come to work, and he's doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, you know, Dave, you're into the business stuff, but they're doing it what we call the right way instead of just see how many miles you can cram in and have it fall apart within a year. So maybe not to answer your question, Don, but I think the spirit is a lot better down there where we're headed with the roads. Technically, over half the roads in the town have had something done to them in the last few years, just to see how they finish them off. And I think that's still in the making as far as how that's going to go.
Okay.
I have a lot better faith now than I've had in the last 5 or 7 years, to be honest with you. All things being equal.
Thanks, Jeff. New business, Memorial Day Parade.
Do we,
Yeah,
do we need to
Oh.
approve this?
we need to make a resolution to approve this.
Give Jim authority to sign the contract.
I move that we authorize Supervisor Doring to sign the contract with the county for the snow maintenance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried? Okay. New business, Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony on Monday, May 27th.
Is it 11 o'clock?
11 a.m. Yeah. So we usually sort of divide the board up for jobs and duties for the parade and ceremony. Dave, you're gonna get the ice cream?
Yep.
Right.
You got no cards?
I'm working on the cars right now. You have a car?
I got my truck, and then if you need one from McNerney's, I already warned Zach, so.
Okay, so you,
Doesn't know I have.
you're good. I think we'll need it.
Okay.
So we have 2 vehicles from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have a vehicle that they want to?
You got Chevy?
You do?
Dave's got Chevy.
Oh, you have a Chevy? Okay. Would you be willing to?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so you have 3 vehicles, so I'll have to ask John Steger for his 2 Cadillacs also. So, other types of jobs, is everybody going to be there on that day?
I don't know if I will be in town or not.
Okay.
Don't know yet. Probably will be.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because,
if I am, I can help out in there.
okay, because we need, well, Linda used to do the signs, Linda Reelman. So we need somebody to do the signs, write the names of the people, so we can put it on the cars. That's a big help for anybody who's a little bit artistic. Artistic. Okay. All right. Is there anybody? Well, so if everybody's going to be around on that day, I'll have corsages for everybody, and I'll assign you to a car too. So I'll have your name on a sign for a car. If you're not going to be around for any reason, just let me know.
Okay.
Any other questions about the parade ceremony?
You got Homer and Kelly this year.
We have, see, who did we have last year? Do you remember? Yeah, I have to look it up in my file. I haven't
Just
dug
let me
into
know,
it
because
quite
it
yet.
makes a difference. Homer's a little bigger.
Homer's bigger, yeah. I have to look it up. But,
I'll tell you in a second.
okay, but whoever it is knows that they're coming, because every time I call them, they say, oh yeah, we have it on the calendar, we're coming, you know. So I have to touch base with those guys. David Ames is gonna be our speaker. So we have a guest speaker, which I'm glad he came through for us.
I'm looking up
Okay,
the picture.
anybody else have anything they want to say? about-
Homer Trojan band.
That
was last year.
That was last year. Okay, so we have Tully this year, and I have to call them to confirm. Okay, next item, Bob Allen's resignation from the Board of Assessment Review. We need to approve his resignation. If everybody got a copy of his resignation.
And prove that we accept his resignation. Send Jared a thanks.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Carried. We received $102,200.37 for first quarter sales tax. We received $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers. And we don't have the USPS number on there, but they pay every month, but we haven't actually seen that check yet, right, Jane?
Yeah. Well, if I did, I'd just stuff it in an envelope and send it to Gina.
Okay. So we'll follow up on that and we'll ask Gina if she got
Do
something.
we know the first quarter sales tax, was that kind of up or down from expectations? Plan?
I think it's up from our expectations.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's what the
like,
county
I
is
was gonna say
telling
we
us.
were like 90K kind of expected, 102 actual.
I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are, but I know that the county is telling us that we're above expectation. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
And mostly it has to do with gasoline. If the price of gas goes up, our sales tax goes up. So at this time, I'd like to open up the meeting to public comment, questions or comments from the public to the town board. Okay.
Being a historian, part of my duty is to go over the preservation of documents and stuff, I guess. Looking at the town hall here on the outside within the last month or so, and it's starting to look pretty rough out there. Just wondering if you'd entertain something to maybe get a paint job and some minor repairs done on the outside of the building at some point.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I think the board would definitely be interested in that. We allocate $30,000 every year in our budget for the maintenance of this building. And we didn't do anything last year to the building. We're going to be doing the paving this year, but that shouldn't cost that much that we have budgeted. So we do have some money that we can work with. So if you want to get us some kind of proposal, maybe some numbers, maybe some, you were talking about the belfry, right? Mostly?
There's, and the belfry and the dormers are all starting to lose shingles on the outside of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Down towards the bottom and stuff like that. So probably just replacing the shingles and maybe get painted and doing the belfry or whatever we need. So,
Well, if you could get us the highest priority item, and maybe we can do it this summer.
okay,
Yeah. If you can get us maybe some price quotes, some proposals
absolutely.
from, you have vendors in that category, right? You know, contractors. And if you could get us some proposals, bring it to the next board meeting,
Absolutely.
then maybe we can start on that.
Okay. Is that something to put a committee together for?
Yeah.
Or
just formed one, wherever you
oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know.
You're on it.
You're the
Just
committee.
John Morgan is the one that fixed it the last time for us. He didn't charge us.
Okay.
But it was broke up there quite a bit. And the bell come off.
Oh dear.
Well, I think we're looking for more than like a quick fix. I think
No, he did a good job
He
because
did?
that's been 10 years
it
already.
was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the belfry looks pretty rough right now. I took some pictures and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know John Morgan enough to talk to him?
I do. I talked to John Morgan about the firehouse because we're getting some quotes to have that painted also.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's out of the business now. So
Okay. I think he's like semi-retired now.
yeah, he's more in the family and
Right.
his grandson's
Go-karts.
racing and
Right,
stuff
go-karts,
like that,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
And he's got a bunch of rentals he's maintaining.
Right. Right. So we'll have to find somebody else then.
Yeah, I've got a few others.
Okay. Okay. Good. We'll talk about that next month.
Okay.
Oh, one thing I missed in the highway report is I've been approached by Verizon and about putting fiber optic line up over East Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to go above ground. And they wanted me to sign off on right away. And I explained to them that that wasn't going to happen. That they need to get that information and sign off from every homeowner there. Because ours is a easement for public travel only. And I confirmed that with Don and he was in agreement. So that's been sent off to Verizon and their right away departments now got some work to do. So, but they want wanna get that over there, which is fine. And then the only thing I required of him in writing was that I want final inspection of all the poles, because if there's some areas we're gonna be, widening and doing some other work there, and I don't wanna have a pole in the way, or, it's a traffic hazard either.
Right.
So, just to let you know that. And one other quick note, if you ever get a chance to go down to Homer for their Memorial Day parade, their town board rides in a old wagon behind a couple of halflinger ponies. So just to let you know what they do for getting their town board to the cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah, good one. Over my Cadillac to a wagon.
Any other comments or
For a buck
questions
sword.
from anybody?
Well, since Don couldn't make it, obviously I work in the public safety building overnights, and they're looking at middle of June, possibly having the inmates back. So the biggest holdup now is a dryer vent. It has to be special orders. Got to go through 2 walls and up and around and whatever. It'd be all custom made. So now the state's involved. Nothing's. It's not like our maintenance guys can just top something up and call it good enough. It's everything being inspected. So
Okay. Any other comments or questions from anybody? Okay. We need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
make a motion to pay general fund vouchers abstracts number 5, numbers 86 to 117, totaling 38,746 and 84 cents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers abstract number 5, numbers 43 to 47, totaling $2,101.59.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Give you a chance.
It's okay. He knows what to do.
Really?
Jump on that.
Take a breath.
I did.
No discussion allowed.
Exactly.